Let's turn our eyes to the skies. Enter Sun Ra's Cosmic Corner. As my friend Richard always opened his radio show with, welcome to Sun Ra Archive. My name is Christopher. It's a sunny day. Skies are blue. Coming up on the end of the calendar year. Coming up on the end of my holiday week, doing these impromptu live streams. Hope you're all doing well today. Good morning, Brad. My brother. Brad and I had a beautiful conversation yesterday talking about a lot of the things that we've been talking about on the live streams and many more. I look forward to upgrading the software here and having Brad co-host, co-pilot this vibration vehicle here at Sun Ra Archive live stream and talk about sunology, spirituality of Sun Ra, Chicago, musical culture, and the special place he lives. And yes, I'm gonna unmask the bad man. You know exactly why I wear this shirt today, Brad. Shout out to brother Steve, brother Christopher, wherever you may be, thinking about you, hoping you're doing well. We are listening to Ernak, 1956, recorded in February, Hall Recording Company, or rehearsals or RCA studio session. One of those. This is from the 2014 iTunes remasters that Sun Ra LLC put out for Magnolia for Sun Ra's centenary, 100 years since Sun Ra visited planet Earth. Got Magnolia here. My co-pilot, the biggest feline Sun Ra fan on the planet. Yes, Ernak was a studio recording. I've been thinking about this song a lot. Always have. I love it. And we're going to talk about it in a couple minutes because I'm curious what all of your thoughts are about it. Brad says, Alton Abraham, Lacey Gibson, Sun Ra, co-composer. And we're listening to Call for All Demons right now. Again, February 1956 from either Hall Recording or RCA Studios. Let's get right into our immeasurable equation for the day. I want to thank Mr. Voss, Brother Jason, for again on his YouTube channel doing a live stream yesterday, referring people here to Sun Ra Archive, as well as rounding out and expanding on the Sun Ra bookshelf. Sun Ra bookshelf. And he reminded me of books I needed to pull out. So I've got another stack, part 4 of Sun Ra bookshelf today, and that should wrap it up other than magazines and articles and things like that. The bookshelf is full. It's overflowing. So we're going to have to curate it down. And then when I've got them all in there, I'm going to pull together my recommendation for the top 5 and top 10 books you need to have in your Sun Ra library if you don't already. And maybe we'll do a cut for the beginners, the number 1, 2, 3 to start with. Good morning, Intergalactic Music, Rare Sun Ra. I rebranded my YouTube channel. I'm guessing this is Brother Jason. And in the comments in the notes here, the show notes, I'm building on when we talk about different links, URLs online to things like Sun Ra Bandcamp, the Hines Brothers, Sundays, Strut, Jason's channel, etc. I'm just going to start a rolling list of links in the comments here so you can find those things. So please find, like, subscribe to Intergalactic Music, Rare Sun Ra. I've always found intergalactic a tongue twister. So immeasurable equation for the day. And we're going to actually look at some more versions of immeasurable equation that Jason reminded me of that I forgot I had stashed in another location so they can join the bookshelf. Paul Youngquist, if you're out there and listening, would like to re-engage you to talk about Sun Ra's poetry, written word, perhaps his methods, his tone science and vibrational intense, and your experience teaching Sun Ra to college students and their interpretations and reactions. And I remember my glasses today, which is good. According to nature's laws and law. This is what we read yesterday. We'll reread this and then go on to our next one. According to nature's laws and law, I be as I am, and what I am not even, because and yet not even because and yet not even because for and that is why, then and so, perhaps, may, if I do I will, and if I don't I won't. Either way I do and I don't, prospectively, why, when, how, what, which, yes, no, neither. After that, what is there after that? And that afterwards is, or doubly no, the not of those things which are. If I to be am, then to be is and are. Why did other voices speak to you and enchant your mind? It is what your mind must seek to understand, beyond the planes of earthlight love. And what are planes of love, if no, you do not? Cascades of emotion, if no, you do not. Shimmering ecstasy, if not, is the wisdom. I have known a heaven all my own. If others know of it, say, or if they do not, to me. I have seen eye to eye with every mind's eye that I have touched vibrationally upon the planet. Without antagonistic resistance, understanding always and. Basically, why those were as they were. How bitterly long have I searched for all that is mine. Now I must be, and mine is mine. My immortal pure idea, my sound idea, my virgin version, I came to be of, if that conception that I will to be. After that, from Sun Ra's Immeasurable Equations. We'll reread that one again on another day. Let that sink in. All right. Brad says, music, the neglected plane of wisdom, is it in that edition? Let's see. Music in the neglected plane of wisdom. Yes, it is, Brad. There are actually two. Music, the neglected plane of wisdom, on page 244, as well as the neglected plane of wisdom, without music in the title, on page 250. High energy there. Guess I should read them, huh? Music, the neglected plane of wisdom. Pardon me. The song that's playing right now is, hold on a second. Saturn, recorded 1956, February, from the Sun Ra Singles Definitive Collection on Strut. Must have. If you don't have it, please get it today. All right, music, the neglected plane of wisdom. Music is a plane of wisdom because music is a universal language. It is a language of honor. It is a noble precept, a gift of the airy kingdom. Music is air, a universal existence, common to all the living. Music is existence, the key to the universal language, because it is the universal language. Freedom of speech is freedom of music. Music is not material, music is spiritual. Music is a living soul force. That which is of the soul is the greater light, the light of greater instruction, the light of culture and beauty, the light of intensity and living power. The name of music is art. The name of music is played by infinite instruments. The name can lift dreams from nothing to reality, keeping them ever before the eyes. Like once silent voices burst into song, the name strikes the ear, and the sound of it rushes like a wild thing and takes its place at the core of even the minutest part of being. Music has wings. It moves upon the wings of intuition and thought. Music is the ambassador of the airy kingdom. Sound, cosmic vibration, life. Pure life, like pure blood, is negative. It is time to consider the negative planes of existence. It is time to consider music as a plane of wisdom and a weapon of defense against the past and the condemnations of the past. Blood, when negative, is pure. The negative is the symbol of the pure. The music of the past is positive music in the same way the past is symbolized by the positive. We'll go to page 250. That was the music, the neglected plane of wisdom. This is the neglected plane of wisdom. Music is a plane of wisdom because music is a universal language. It is a language of honor. It is a noble precept, a gift of the airy kingdom. Music is air, a universal existence, common to all the living. Music is existence, the key to the universal language, because it is the universal language. Freedom of speech is freedom of music. Music is not material, music is spiritual. Music is a living soul force. That which is of the soul is the greater light, the light of greater instruction, the light of culture and beauty, the light of intensity and living power. The name of music is art. The name of music is played by infinite instruments. The name can lift dreams from nothing to reality and keep them ever before the eyes. Like once silent voices burst into song, the name strikes the ear, and the sound of it rushes like a wild thing and takes its place at the core of even the minutest part of being. Music has wings. It moves upon the wings of intuition and thought. Music is the ambassador of the airy kingdom. Sound, cosmic vibration, life. Pure life, like pure blood, is negative. It is time to consider the negative plane of existence. It is time to consider music as a plane of wisdom and a weapon of defense against the past and the condemnations of the past. Blood, when negative, is pure. The negative is the symbol of the pure. The music of the past is positive music in the same way the past is symbolized by the positive. And the footnote here from Wolf and Gierken is, this poem first appeared as The Neglected Plain in the first Saturn Records prospectus, issued in 1966 or perhaps 1965. It also appeared in the second Saturn catalog, Saturn II Inc., handy catalog number B7S66Y, as Music, the Neglected Plane of Wisdom. The differences between the two are slight, mostly involving punctuation. Both versions are given here because of their great rarity. At the bottom of Music, the Neglected is printed registered 1955. However, and not surprisingly, no such poem is registered for copyright under either title or any of Sun Ra's various names which he used to copyright music. It is not clear then which is the original title or version. If the date is correct, this poem is the earliest known Sun Ra poem. Whoa! Brad. Thank you for the recommendation. That never registered with me. Oh, I love it. I love it. The Immeasurable Equation of Sun Ra, Wait a While Publishing. Collected poems by Sun Ra, curated and edited by James L. Wolfe and Brother Gierken. Still in print and bound and produced to withstand years of study, as my dropping on the floor the other day proved unintentionally. Thank you for that recommendation, Brad. Lots and lots in there. The idea of the negative and the positive, and the negative being pure, I need to think on a little bit. So part of my thinking or my study right now is about that very idea. And that as humans, we want to label and we want to judge yes or no, light or dark, good or bad, right or wrong. And that the eternal creator, the source of the infinite universe, is both all the time. And that to judge and to label as is human nature is against the laws of the universe. So I've been trying to retrain my thinking lately to acknowledge and perceive and accept that duality as being cosmic law, and that one cannot and should not exist with the other, and to judge is against the laws of nature. Because as a person, kind of like my own growth, the culture I was brought up in and how I was indoctrinated as a Caucasian Christian male in the 70s, 1970s, and 1980s, everything was either good or bad. You were either angelic or demonic. You were either for God or for Satan, and you were either one or the other. And that if you wanted to be a good person of strong, positive ethics, morals, integrity, etc., that you had to embrace and only be good. And in my heart of hearts, I still feel that way. I mean, I do believe that, and the poetry's making me go here, but um, that love is the core um, vibration, and I see that as being positive. But also, there are many negatives to how we experience love and the behavior that love can produce. Therefore, like Abraxas, the original source, good and bad are both present and equal. So Sun Ra in that poem talking about negative being purity is very interesting to me, because that, to my understanding, supersedes Christianity. It supersedes some of the, Brad and I were talking about this, the culture and society that Sun Ra in his last earthly carnation was born, raised, and educated in was predominantly a Christian culture. So that was the language and the reference that he had, not only to contrast and weigh his perceptions and his feelings, but a way to communicate to his community in a language and terminology that they would understand. But I think, or my feeling is, as Sun Ra matured, became more aware of himself and his being, he fully realized and surpassed pure, Christianity as a singular theological spiritual idea, and that Christianity at the at at the time that it was founded and collected was taking all of the knowledge that preceded it and codifying it, and then later society and government and politics and humans perverting it and taking it away from its core intention. But that the idea, so biblically, as I understand it, the intent is good and negative and evil is bad, meaning sinful and against God. Now, is that against God, Yahweh, Jehovah, being a God of Christianity and a God among gods and not the singular creator? Sun Ra talking about negative being pure alongside positive makes me think that he's going back to the source, the one creator before all that. So, Brad, thank you for that suggestion for that poem, because it really, as you can tell, really inspired me. So, let's see here. Brad, Jason, comments. Parts of that poem equation that we just read are in another poem, like Silent Voices Burst into Song, says Brad. It says it's in a Saturn Records brochure, registered 1955. Jason, Mr. Intergalactic Music, says it's the name Sound. Sun Ra has a composition, Negative Sound, says Brad. Phil Curran performed it once. Sun Ra redefining many of those things in light of the contradictions that humans demonstrated in his experience of life. Sun Ra said, don't be righteous over much, don't destroy yourself. Absolutely. And I always love that, especially the humorous way in which he sometimes talked about being righteous, righteous, righteous. And that makes me think of that story about, what was it, Michael Jackson or something like that, or disco, and how one of the Arkestra members was poo-pooing it, that it was musically unhip and beneath them. And Sun Ra said, don't dismiss someone else's hopes and dreams. Don't be too hip for disco. And regardless of my appreciation or thoughts on disco, I've always loved that about Sun Ra, kind of giving us an elbow. Don't be too righteous. Don't be too hip. All right, the immeasurable equation. Man, I wasn't expecting that. Got way beyond what I thought we were going to talk about and say. So here's an interesting one. I had mentioned the other day when we were going through the Sun Ra esoteric song titles from the 50s that the Sun Ra Library of Congress scores that James L. Wolfe de-archived and disseminated via Saturn listserv, that my friend James Weiss in the early 2000s, I sent him copies of those after I scanned them, and he inputted them into a basic MIDI program and sent exports of what those scores sounded like. And I'll just play a snippet here since it's playing in the background. 1956, February 1st, registration with the Library of Congress, number 32 in Robert L. Campbell and Christopher Trent's Earthly Recordings, Satana and Saturn. This is the only version that I have in my possession. Satana and Saturn. And it's making me Google Satana, because I've always been curious about that title, what it means and what the reference is. So, Google tells me Satana is a Marvel Comics character, but I have to believe that there's an ancient origin of the name Satana. Trusty Wikipedia says Satana, a name for the devil in various language, variation of Satan. Satana, India, a town in the Nashik district, Maharashtra, India. Satanya, aka Satana, a mythological figure from the Nart saga of the Northern Caucasus. All right, so for a deeper dive another day, the composition Satana and Saturn. What does that mean? So you can hear the transition where the composition Satana has gone into Saturn here. So thank you, James Weiss. Thank you, James Wolfe. Next up in the background, we're going to hear James Weiss's inputting of the Call for All Demons lead sheet from the Library of Congress. Okay, Satana. Which leads me to, before we get to the final books in the bookshelf, or that are going to be stacked up on the bookshelf, I started the show with Ernak. The song Ernak from 1956, recorded February, that appeared on the Angels and Demons at Play album. I've always wondered about Ernak, and when I try and look it up, I don't see any precedent for it. meaning, we can look up some of these other song titles like Satana and Saturn and see historical, mythological precedent for the name. But Ernak, where does it come from? Do any of you know? Can we find out? Ernak, to me, sounds like an ancient name for a god. It sounds like it could be the name of a place or a sacred space. It makes me think of Karnak Temple in Egypt. It makes me wonder, was Sun Ra permutating and jumbling the letter characters that if you unscramble them, it reveals what Ernak really is. I haven't been able to figure it out, and I'm hoping maybe one of you can fill me in. So Mr. Voss says Sun Ra Ernak is a Julian Priester composition. That's right. That's right. Need to pull out the score and see how it's registered. If it's just a Julian Priester and it was included in the batch of compositions that Sun Ra or Alton or Mr. Bryant registered with the Library of Congress from those early sessions, or is it a co-write with Sun Ra? But what is Ernak? Regardless, thank you for clarifying, Jason, that it's a Priester composition. Yeah, I was with you. It has to mean or come from somewhere, even if it's nonsense, and I'd love to know. So I put it in a unscrambler, and Ernak, kind of the base components that we could permutate it to or deconstruct it to, that might be food for thought for you, are Krunk, Crank, Nor, Ruck, Kark, Rack, Newer, Kuna, Kern, Karn, Nark, Raku, Rank, Karn, Cran, Ak, Auk, Ark, Can, Crew, Cur, Car, Run, Earn, Ran, Aun, Ka, Nu, An, Na, Ar. Okay, so I wanted to put that out there. If we can figure out what Ernak is, I've always wondered and would love to know. Brad, if you can ask Master Priester, please do. Among many, many things. So Jason says he's looking at the score, and Intergalactic Music says it's just Julian Priester's name on the score for Ernak. So I'd love to know that. I'm sure you'd be curious too. Okay, the Sun Ra Bookshelf, Part 4. So when Intergalactic Music was doing the live stream yesterday, his second live stream to fill in the books that I had missed in my bookshelf, there's a couple that, there's a couple he reminded me that I have. And I wanted to pull those out. And then a bunch of just kind of general jazz, free jazz books that I'm going to look and see if Sunrise mentioned. It's been many years since I've consulted these, but leave these for last. The Immeasurable Equations. All right. As Serious as Your Life, The Story of the New Jazz, Valerie Wilmer. So this is a book about the free jazz revolution by Valerie Wilmer, who is also a photographer who did a lot of portraits of Sun Ra and the Arkestra that we saw in the Omniverse Sun Ra book by Hart McGeerkin, as well as lots of record covers. Excuse me. Their seminal classic images. And if you don't know who Val Wilmer is or the pictures I'm speaking of, if you saw them, you would know exactly what they are. So this was first published 1977, and it includes many chapters about different musicians, but the one that piqued my interest originally was Sun Ra, Pictures of Infinity, Chapter 5. It also covers John Coltrane, who was really kind of the first jazz musician of his kind that I was into as a younger person that led me down this path. And there's a quote here from Pat Patrick, baritone saxophone player and orchestra stalwart. I'll read it since it's come up in front of my eyes. It says Pat Patrick, everybody is a potential drum inasmuch as they have their own heartbeat. Of course, once their hearts stop beating, they stop swinging. Some people can't stand any rhythm or beats other than their own. These are people whose tuning is off in some kind of way. It seems that anybody with their own heartbeat should be compatible to rhythm, period. Word, Pap. Master Coltrane. Let's see if one of her Sun Ra pictures is in here. Sun Ra Village Gate, 1976. Interestingly, one of the lesser known Wilmer pictures. So the Sun Ra chapter is excellent. The book in and of itself is excellent. And I actually have 2 copies of it. I have that reprint on Serpent's Tail, which interestingly, let's see if we can. Their logo is the Ouroboros, the serpent eating its own tail, symbol of infinity. And then the other version I have from the library of Richard Segan is this one, which I'm guessing is probably the original 77 printing quartet books. Serious as Your Life. Same pictures, same typesetting. Originally sold for $2, well, £2.95. A bargain. All right. Let's see what the other passengers are saying. Brad says there's a composition by Ruth Lewis, vocalist, in those Library of Congress sheet music scores. I don't remember that one, Brad. I would have to look. I don't know if that was in the ones that James Wolfe disseminated. There's a book about Baroness Nika Rothschild that has a couple pages about Sun Ra. Yes, Baroness Nika Rothschild, friend and supporter of Thelonious Monk. They had a very famous or infamous meeting that both of them talked about. Intergalactic Music says, Lonely Me music by Ruth Lewis and Alton E. Abraham. Words by Ruth Lewis, March 7th, 1963. Don't remember that one. Brad asked, do you have the C.O. Simpkins book about Coltrane? It has solaristic precepts broadside in it. Yes, I do, Brad. It's downstairs and I didn't bring it up in this batch. But thank you for the reminder. The next book, potentially for the bookshelf, Black Music by Leroy Jones, author of Blues People, $1.95. Again, from the library of Richard Segan that he bequeathed to me. Let's look in the index here. Sun Ra, pages 92, 96, 128 through 30, 134, 135, 137, 140, and it goes on for double that. Let's see on page 198 what Leroy Jones has to say. I'm kind of curious because these books are lesser known to me, and I haven't spent time with them in a long time. Sun Ra is spiritually oriented. He understands the future as an ever-widening comprehension of what space is, even to the physical travel between the planets as we do anyway in the long human chain of progress. Sun Ra's Arkestra sings in one of his songs, "We travel the spaceways from planet to planet." It is science fact that Sun Ra is interested in, not science fiction. It is evolution itself and its fruits. God is evolution, the flow of is. Black music, Leroy Jones. Swing to Bop, Ira Gittler. Oral history of the transition in jazz in the 1940s. Let's see here. Yeah, so I would have gotten this because of references to Fletcher Henderson and the other musicians that, Sun Ra listened to, was educated by, learned from, and inspired him. I don't believe that there's any Sun Ra reference in this book. But James Moody is in here, and other kind of tertiary names from the Sun Ra world. I'm seeing song Out of Nowhere, which Sun Ra recorded. We have two versions of it. We'll need to come back and look at that. Ra, nope. Sun, nope. Got it for the Fletcher Henderson and the early stuff. All right. Rhythm Aning, Jazz Traditions and Innovation in the 80s, Gary Giddens. Very well known jazz author and journalist from the 80s and 90s. I believe he was interviewed in jazz documentary pretty extensively. Ra, Sun, 208, 276. Let's see what Giddens has to say. And I'm guessing probably not much. Of course, Sun Ra was not mentioned even once in the jazz documentary. Let's see here. Global Unity Orchestra. The GUO was Europe's first major response to the American New Wave and proved the most enduring band of its kind, accepting Sun Ra's Solar Orchestra. That's it. Music and Politics by John Sinclair and Robert Levin, Jazz and Pop book series. Awesome vintage graphic design. Sam Bird, my friend, in the chat. Hello, sir. Congratulations to you and Roger on the book. I hope you're doing well. It's been many a moon since we've talked. You always make me smile when I see your name and I think about you. So thank you for joining us, everybody. Sam Bird, I believe Editor is the title that you have for the Sun Ra Sundays book that came out recently based on Roger Coleman's blog articles. Sam is has always been a great friend to me as a Sun Ra fan, always answering questions, helping me out, going back to the old days of when I saw his name on Saturn Listserv before I even had a computer or an internet connection, trading stuff through the mail. Sam is an A1 righteous dude. Glad to see you here, Sam. He says Giddens was the major reasonable voice in the documentary, jazz, and it's crazy. the name of the filmmaker is just like a blank spot in my mind, even though I've said it a million times. But you all know what we're talking about. Uh, yeah, but leaving Sun Ra out and not and not going through the avant-garde and the free periods was sacrilege, honestly. Um, Ken Burns, of course, Ken Burns, who is a great documentarian, great filmmaker. I loved jazz. I've watched it many, many times over, own it. Think that what he did well, he did fantastically. It's a great primer. The photographs, I love his style. I love the narrator and the narrator's tone. It's just, it was a very myopic view of jazz. And if you're going to do that many episodes, do a couple more or do do the work and put it out in the special features of the re-release. But to leave free jazz, avant-garde, Sun Ra, and many many other people out of that documentary was not historically correct. And I believed and always thought that that's what Ken Burns' intention was. Yeah, I mean, I get it at a certain popular culture level, but no reference at all is sacrilegious. It's wrong historically. Um, there's a picture book of the current Sun Ra Arkestra. Not sure what that is. If anyone knows, put a link in the chat. All right, the next book on the Sun Ra music shelf, Music and Politics, John Sinclair. Let's just look real quick here as we load up the shelf. So I have these things right at my fingertips as we get into the live streams, and ideas are spurned. Oh, I remember that was mentioned here. Or let's look this up. It'll all be here. Here is the table of contents for those of you that don't have this book. There is no bibliography, so I don't recall where Sun Ra fits into it. Joe Goldberg's Jazz Masters of the 50s by Da Capo Press. I'm sure that Richard got this because of all the giants and greats that are in here, and that there's no Sun Ra content. So, Jazz Masters of the 50s, according to Joe Goldberg, are Jerry Mulligan, Thelonious Monk, Art Blakey, Miles Davis, Sonny Rollins, Modern Jazz Quartet, Charles Mingus, Paul Desmond, Ray Charles, John Coltrane, Cecil Taylor, Ornette Coleman. Well, we certainly can't argue with any of those. Jazz People by Valerie Wilmer. Another Val Wilmer book, again by Quartet. I haven't read this one yet, so I can't speak to it from a Sun Ra content standpoint. But let's look. Sun Ra Sun, page 15. Let's see what Val has to say in this one. In the chapter, The Art of Perception. Who are we talking about here? Art Farmer. Art's approach to the music is based on the exploration of melodies and is essentially an extension of his own nature. He is only at home within a lush harmonic framework, and his attitude to music is the complete antithesis of the route taken by the anarchistic protagonists of the avant-garde. Good sentence. In spite of this, he has listened shrewdly enough to the freethinkers to appreciate their attempts at molding a new music, whether or not he considers they succeed in their aims, and before leaving the US in 1968, was a familiar figure at Sun Ra's experimental Monday night sessions at Slugs, the rough and ready home of the avant-garde on New York's Lower East Side. I think that what most of them are doing is valid from their own standpoint, but only for some is it valid from the point of view of the music they're making. Some of them are being self indulgent because it could be an easy way out. And I would like to emphasize that playing in the freedom bag without relying on preordained forms and harmonic patterns creates a good deal of responsibility as far as the artist is concerned. And it sounds to me like many people are not equipped to cope with this responsibility. But if he was a regular figure at Sun Ra's slug sessions, I would imagine that Art Farmer considered Sun Ra and the Arkestra to be the exception of that viewpoint he has about free jazz and the avant-garde. Hold on 1 second here. Sybil Zare is the author of the current picture book about the Sun Ra Orchestra under the direction of Marshall Allen. Thank you, Brad. I'll have to look that up. I feel that Wynton Marsalis should have brought up Sun Ra and his connection to the big band legacy. I agree, and I've looked into Wynton specifically in regards to Sun Ra, and I've never found any instance where he actually refers directly to Sun Ra. So I'm not sure that Wynton is actually hip to Sun Ra. I think if anybody in the family is, it would probably be Branford. But again, I've never seen any reference by the Marsalis family to Sun Ra specifically. Oh, yeah. So Brad says, I don't know how to put a link here. So YouTube disables the ability for chatters to paste links. And there's a way to make you moderators so that you can paste links. I think that they want to disable spammers from being able to do that. So Brad, let me look into that. Look into how to do that. I don't know if it's on YouTube or whether it's in StreamYard, but it's basically giving you folks a wrench so that you can add links. Sam says, have you brought up the Penguin Guide to Jazz yet? No, Sam, I have not. I don't own the Penguin Guide to Jazz. So please let me know your thoughts and why you think it's of value or what you think is of note, either in the chat or we can talk about it, video to video, face to face sometime. I'm just glad you're here, Sam. So as as fans and as creatives, when we get in these phases and we get the bug and we get in deep study, we try and figure out ways that we can share our study to give respect and elevate the view of the music to a larger audience. And whether it's a blog or doing a cover in our band or telling a friend or writing a review or talking on a message board or doing a podcast or whatever, I keep trying different things throughout the years to try and just share my experience and the joy of how much I love Sun Ra and the Arkestra, and hope that in this humble little way that it helps the planet and it makes it easier for those like me that will come later, who one day discover Sun Ra and want to know everything, that by sharing my journey, it'll give them a leg up and get them there quicker. So the live streams, I'm on vacation this week for the holidays, retrospecting about the previous things I've done, the podcast, which kind of did what it did, and the videos and the YouTube channel and the fanzine and all that stuff. And well, what can I do with this little rush period I'm having now, listening to and loving Sun Ra? So I figured I'd try the live streams and see if that works, if that brings people together or adds to the community of voices. Because even though I'm passionate about it and I'm willing to talk, it's not about me. It's about us. It's about lots of viewpoints. So I was thinking maybe because There are some other live streamers that I really enjoy outside of the realm of music and have been inspired by. So I thought we would apply it to Sun Ra and see if it lit a fire at all. And it seems to have a little bit. Like so, every day we've had brother Brad, brother Jason, and now you joining in. I've reached out to other friends like brother Steve, brother Christopher, etc. And I think eventually, as they can, they'll join in, and hopefully, after my vacation here, with just testing and getting jumping online, doing these ad hoc live streams, we'll get into a format where maybe like every Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern, we'll schedule a topic and a show, and we'll all put it on our calendar, do our homework during the week. I'll get something like StreamYard where I can bring you all up picture in picture, and we can have a roundtable study group discussion. So I'm glad you found this, Sam. Thank you for everything you've done for the music and for me over the years. Really happy to see your name there. You're one of the good ones. Always makes me smile to see your name. Okay, Sun Ra Bookshelf. We're almost through, but I appreciate all of you kind of being on here and sharing the ride, because it made what I thought was going to be like 20 minutes of these last few books turn into another hour. And who doesn't want a daily hour of Sun Ra programming on their YouTube? The world deserves it. The planet needs it. So if we're the ones that are going to have to give it to them, then by Jove, we will. Black Music, A.B. Spellman, Cecil Taylor, Ornette Coleman, Herbie Nichols, Jackie McLean, Four Lives. Sun Ra, page 27. He gets one mention, but it's nice to see the name Jackie McLean as a Connecticut resident. Cecil Taylor, too. I always love hearing their names. Let's see. It's the Cecil Taylor chapter. Sun Ra gets a footnote, the little asterisk. He gets his little Sun Ra star at the bottom. Sun Ra is a pianist, composer, and orchestra leader who has been working with new forms of jazz for several years. Right. He gets the asterisk because the line is, well, it lasted. The guild's members included Sun Ra. This is the Jazz Guild. Sun Ra, Archie Shepp, Cecil Taylor, Bill Dixon, Paul and Carla Bley, Mike Mantler, Burton Green, and many others. Sun Ra being one of the many others. Brad M. Marvin X has a website with good info about Sun Ra. No kidding. I didn't know that. I need to make a note of that. Marvin X being, I believe, someone who is either involved with or a part of the Black Panther movement around the Oakland, California area in the early 70s, who Sun Ra interfaced with when he and the band were in the Berkeley area, and Sun Ra conducted his one semester class. I believe Marvin X appeared on one Sun Ra concert recording from that era. Marvin X, I believe, being a poet and wordsmith. So Marvin X has a website with good info about Sun Ra. Thank you, Brad. All right, Sun Ra Bookshelf. Giants of Black Music by Pauline Ravelli and Robert Levin. Forward by Nat Hentoff to Capo Press. The Giants of Black Music are, according to this book, came out in 1970. John Coltrane, John Carter, Bobby Bradford, Pharoah Sanders, Elvin Jones, Sonny Murray, Oliver Nelson, Horace Tapscott, Gary Bartz, Coleman, Coltrane, and Shep, Bayard Lancaster, Alice Coltrane. Oh, I love Alice Coltrane. One of my other all-time favorites. If any of you out there are Alice Coltrane fans and would like to do a deep dive someday, I have merely scratched the surface of Alice Coltrane. The one album I listen to the most is Journey in Satchidananda. I love the harp. It's one of my favorite instruments. My dream band that I put together someday would be harp, theremin, didgeridoo, bagpipes, and a Tuvan throat singer for the lead vocalist, with Buddhist monks as the background vocals. So Alice, I just love, but I really have never gone deep with her. Her music just connects with me real deep, but I'm not an expert. So if any of you are, let's talk about her. Please message me or reach out if you want to be a presenter, co-host, because I think she absolutely relates to Sun Ra in so many ways and is so worthy of talking about. Cole's Train, welcome, thank you. Please do an Alice deep dive, especially her cassette releases. That's an open invitation for you, Cole's Train, Sam Bird, anyone. Reach out to me, private message me, whatever. If you want to co-present or be involved in an Alice Coltrane episode, I'm all for it. She is pure angelic magic. All right. Rounding out the Sun Ra library that is now overfilled and there are books piled on top of it, Free Jazz by Eckhard Jost. Da Capo Press again. I remember this book. This would have been one of the early ones that I took out of the library at University of Connecticut that I looked through all of the indexes, found all the references, single sentences, footnotes, paragraphs about Sun Ra, and photocopied when I was just looking for any little information about Sun Ra back in the day when there was so very little. And I remember this very vividly, his dissection of the melody of Saturn. And then lastly, I won't spend a ton of time on it because Jason reminded me of it yesterday. One of the earlier books that was in my library, Bluetopia by Graham Locke. Visions of the Future and Revisions of the Past in the work of Sun Ra, Duke Ellington, and Anthony Braxton. This is one you got to have. Sam says he photocopied copious amounts of Joe's books as well. Man, those are the good old days. I love libraries. I love paper and books and these things. I love, digital's great. It's been a great blessing, but we've potentially lost something along the way if the next generations that come after don't retain these artifacts, because we internalize it differently. There's a whole craft around writing and producing books. There's a whole tactile experience. It imparts itself to the memory differently. And if the interwebs go down, hopefully we can save some of the books and bury them under our sphinxes. So Bluetopia, that's the last book on the shelf. And then I'm going to round it out. With more cosmic equations. So Jason mentioned to me, and I had forgotten about this. I hadn't forgotten, but I kind of have this stuff spread all over my living space. And things get filed and then they get refiled. I'm sure you record collectors all know the drill. But the Corbett versus Dempsey reprinting of replicas of the immeasurable equations. Jason showed these yesterday and reminded me that I had them downstairs and forgot to pull them out and put them on the bookshelf. Jason said these are still available. If you've got the money, get them now while you can. They're beautiful. It's so nice to see them in their original size and format with the original typesetting replicated. I've also got Struck a Match on the Moon 7-inch in here from them. Um, and while the Wolf Gierkin book is indispensable and kind of a go-to for daily use, this reprinting replica that more closely matches the immeasurable equation. Now remember that illustration that we saw in the Eitan Aye book? It's on the cover. So that's where it was used. Immeasurable Equation, Volume 2, Extensions Out by Sun Ra. Brad says, I met Graham Locke. Cool. Don't know much about Graham. I mean, other than, just who they are and the work that they've done. They were kind of elder parent figures at the time that I came into it. So we never crossed paths. Sam says the Graham Locke Braxton book is great. Lots about Ra in there too. Cool, Sam. I'll have to get that. This is great. Some more books for the bookshelf. But Immeasurable Equation. So this is a reprint by Corbett versus Dempsey Gallery that replicates how the immeasurable equations were originally printed and distributed. And I don't know about the earliest versions, right? So does anyone know? So this version, would this have been distributed by Sun Ra and sold at the shows or by mail order? Or was this basically kind of for the Arkestra and for the inner circle? And then not until, excuse me, I want to make sure that that's safe. It doesn't end up on the floor like the other one the other day. That that version, that big version, wasn't sold widespread publicly, and that these versions by the Hines brothers, John and Peter, were the first time that immeasurable equations really got larger print runs, reprints, and were more commonly and consistently available at shows or via mail order. So also bequeathed from the collection of my friend and mentor, Richard Segan. This is the Hines brothers Sun Ra research omnisonic printing of immeasurable equation, 8.5 by 11. Looks like it's offset print. It's definitely press printed. Doesn't look photocopied. But I know that as part of their support of the Arkestra and involvement with the Arkestra in the 80s, that they took the lead on printing these versions of the immeasurable equation that Sun Ra and the Arkestra could disperse and sell at shows, probably via mail order too, or from Omnisonic. This was a little before my time, so I don't know how that all worked. Brad says that's the second copy co-published by Alton Abraham, or maybe I think Brad's referring to the Corbett versus Dempsey version, because this is definitely printed by the Hines brothers, because this is what the Sun Ra research colors look like. And then the other version of Immeasurable Equations would be the last book for the shelf, is this version that appears as though it was bought at a store. And I'm guessing, no, Richard used to go to Cambridge, Massachusetts to buy Sun Ra records. I don't remember the name of the store. Maybe they had a copy. I don't think it was Rounder Records. I don't know, was there a major record store in Cambridge that Rounder stocked that he would have been traveling to Boston to But this is pre Heinz Brothers because I've seen. Excuse me. I've seen photocopies via the Heinz Brothers and in other Sun Ra books of this typewriter font face. So these would have been originally keyed and typed by Sun Ra himself. And he liked that font, that kind of pseudo cursive typewriter font. So this is the other version. So this is copyright 1980, Lasagna Ra. 5626 Morton Street, Philadelphia, PA, printed in the USA. So this was probably distributed by Rounder Records, and Richard probably found this in a record store in Boston or New York or something like that. So, Jason, thank you for the reminder of the other copies of Immeasurable Equation that I had. Get them now. They're all going to be on one bookshelf, and it's just going to sit there and hum. So, thank you, Brad, Jason, Sam, for joining in this live stream. I don't know if this will be the last one for the week. If I get inspired to do another one over the weekend, I will. If not, this will be the end of our test journey mission to see if live streams are a good thing to do in the future. And in the new year, I will announce it so we can promote it and do and schedule and be free and do our homework. But I'm thinking at least for January, we'll start out every Friday night, 8 p.m. around 8 p.m. Eastern. We'll do a live stream, probably 90 to 120 minutes or as long as we want to go, and then see if that's a good frequency. I think once a week is good. And it's something that if there's some energy from you folk that, want to keep the momentum and keep sustaining it, but maybe we'll find as adults with lives and other stuff to do, maybe we'll do bi-weekly. Who knows? We'll figure it out. But yeah, so if I'm inspired, I'll do some more this weekend. But really, I want to hold the topics and spend the time, migrate to a platform where I can bring you all on screen. We can all talk in real time, and that you're not banished to just the chat. As much as I appreciate seeing you there, people that want to come up on screen and talk, that choose to, that they can. And really all I could do at this point would be basically bringing all of the records and CDs in one spot and doing a collection tour, show and tell. And there are other folks on YouTube that have done that. So including Roger Coleman. So I think there's less value. Maybe in the future I will, but I don't know, maybe I'll bring all the CDs and records here so I can pull them out as we're talking about them in the future. But thank you for your support. Thank you for all the work that you do on your own to share your research and study about Sun Ra. I've learned things from all of you. I hope that in some small way you can say the same of me. It's been fun. Sun Ra music always makes me feel better, always makes me happy, and always gives me energy. So this has been a real treat this week. Enjoy the rest of your day, and space is the place. Change your destiny.